This video is presented by Western and Southern Financial Group, a game plan for your financial future. Every great team starts with a strong foundation, and your future should too. With life insurance built like a championship roster, Western and Southern helps protect what matters most, so you can focus on winning today while planning for tomorrow. Whether you're just starting your journey, building your dynasty, or ready to retire like a champion, Western and Southern has the right play for your life stage. Visit westernsouthern.com to get your free life insurance quote today. Western and Southern, built to win.
Just got some earth-shattering news in college football. Dante Moore, the star Oregon quarterback, who a lot of people thought was pretty much a guarantee to be at least a top 3 pick in the NFL draft, if not the number 2 overall pick to the New York Jets. Well, it ain't happening, at least this year, because he is going back to Oregon for the 2026 season. Dalton, we've kind of had rumors that it's be happening for Dante Moore for a while. I personally always thought he'd go to the draft because if you're a top 3 pick, you should always go, in my opinion, to the draft. But Dante Moore shocking a lot of people, including me, by announcing that he's going back to Oregon for another year.
Yeah, I think it's definitely different for quarterbacks, right? And I think the biggest thing he's giving up here is financially, right? You know, the opportunity to make 40 something to close to $50 million when it comes to the guarantees in his first NFL contract, at least through the first 4 years. And then probably, most quarterbacks get that 5th-year option as long as they play well enough. But no, I think it is at least a mature decision with regard to his development. If he didn't feel like he was ready to start for an NFL team come, September, then I get it. I absolutely do. He's still only 20 years old. He's very young. There's parts of his game that can still be improved. And I think the NFL is less and less now a game where you can develop your quarterback on the fly, right? It really needs to be done in the offseason, but you need to have a pretty good amount of seasoning coming into the league too. So I get it. From an experience standpoint, from a development standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to me. And it certainly on the college level solidifies Oregon as a national title contender again next year.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, that's a good point right there with the NFL development side of it, because the NFL, we've said it time and time again, the NFL is no longer really a development league for quarterbacks. You better be ready to go immediately in the NFL, or else they're going to move on from you, honestly, and go on to the next guy. And we see guys time and time again fail in the NFL when they're not immediately ready. So if Dante Moore thinks, hey, I only got really one real year of being a starter. I know in his true freshman year at UCLA, he started a few games for the Bruins that year, but this is really his first true season of being a starter, saying, hey, I'll go back for another year, get more seasoning, and then obviously go to the NFL after that. Again, I think it's a little risky considering you're going to be probably a number 2 overall pick anyways. Next year's class looks a lot better with especially a quarterback with guys like Julian Sayin and Arch Manning, and all the other guys are going to go into next year's class too. So don't know if you'll go number 2 overall in next year's draft. So financially, it would have made sense for me to go to the NFL draft, but for his personal development, for his professional development, I do understand going back to Oregon for next year. And Dalton, you just mentioned it right there. Oregon's freaking loaded, dude. It is unbelievable what this roster is starting to look like for next year. You got Dante Moore going back for another year. You obviously had the great running backs you had as true freshmen this year, and Jordan Davison and De'Air Hill. You got a great tight end going back to school. I know Kenyon Sadiq is gone now, is going to be a first-round pick in this upcoming draft, but Jamari Johnson is going to be a breakout star at tight end. I really think he's probably going to be one of the best tight ends in the country next year. DeCorian Moore is going back for a sophomore year. Evan Stewart most likely would be going back for another year, considering he didn't play at all this year too. And then defensively, the entire D line is back, right? Mateo Uyunglele, Bear Alexander, Amari Washington, Tatum Tuioti, Uyunglele, and Amari Washington probably would have been top 40 picks in this year's draft if they declared. You got Brandon Finney at a freshman corner who's phenomenal this year. He's back for another year too. This Oregon roster right now, Dalton, I think is looking like a legitimate national title contender. Not even mentioning Coy Parrish coming in at safety to replace the departed Dylan Feineman, who declared for the draft today as well. So this Oregon team all of a sudden looks like a legitimate national title contender next year. And we're going to do our way too early top 25 next week, actually. I can guarantee you right now, Oregon will be probably somewhere at least in the top 3 of that way too early top 25, if not number 1.
Yeah, you've got some absolutely loaded rosters. Next year's national title race is going to be a lot of fun because you can already see Texas loading up in the portal, Oregon with Dante Moore coming back. And, keep in mind, even as the backup now, Dylan Raiola behind Dante Moore, what a situation he's in now for the next year. Ohio State's going to be loaded. Indiana's going to be loaded. Texas Tech is going to be loaded again with their transfer portal class. Brendan Twissy and those guys. Texas as well. I mean, you've got so many teams that feel like they're really gunning for a national championship next year. And Oregon's right at the top of the list. And I know they lost their 2 games to Indiana this year. And obviously it was unfortunate how the season ended for them with that blowout loss. But they know they can play with that team. They know they can play with anybody, especially with this quarterback coming back for his second year as the starter, third year in the system. The question for me with Oregon, really, as far as championship contention, is just going to be how do they transition from losing Will Stein and Tosh Lapoy, both their coordinators? That'll be the biggest question to me. We saw that with Ohio State this year, having to respond, couldn't quite get all the way, but Oregon's got a fantastic team, and to have this quarterback coming back with that supporting cast, they're going to be really good.
Yeah, they're going to be really good going to next year. I think if I had to make a top 3 right now of next year, I don't know, not in order just yet. We'll get that order next week, but I think the top 3 will probably consist of Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas in some order. Honestly, I think those rosters right now just look incredible, and Dante Moore going back as a cherry on top for what was already a really good Oregon team. They would have been somewhere in the top 10 even with Dylan Raiola playing quarterback for them next year. I think that actually leads to another interesting point, Dalton, is that Dylan Raiola is now taking the Dante Moore route. Because you remember Dante Moore, his first year at Oregon, sat behind Dylan Gabriel for a year, learned the offense, took over this year. Dylan Raiola will be following a similar path, sitting behind Dante Moore, and then after that, of course, starting at Oregon, most likely the year after that, if he stays at Oregon. Dalton, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, and I know the transfer portal right now, with Longstreet going to LSU, there are pretty much no quarterbacks left in the transfer portal right now. And there are a couple schools, big time schools, that still need a quarterback right now. Looking at one of the teams in the national title game in Miami, looking at Tennessee as well. I wonder if one or both of those schools starts making serious offers to Dylan Raiola to get him to leave Oregon and maybe start for them next year. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying I've heard anything about that, but I do wonder if a couple desperate schools, like maybe a Miami and a Tennessee, would start to reach out to Raiola's camp and see how committed he really is to being Oregon's backup next year.
I mean, they could try. I mean, I'll give Raiola credit for this, committing to Oregon, knowing Dante could come back and being humble enough, in his own development, knowing that he needs that, knowing that, even if I have to sit for a year, which I can't really remember any other 2-year starter ever willingly doing that, going, okay, if I have to sit, I'll sit. But he does need that development. I think he needs time, with Oregon's coaching staff to get better, right? Because he did show some flaws this year. Obviously, we didn't love the fit in Dana Holgerson's offense at Nebraska, but he does have to get better himself. And I think at this point, it's so late in the process, right? There's only 2 days left of this transfer portal window. I don't know that. I know Tennessee and Miami both tried with Ty Simpson, and he's going to the NFL anyway. It sounds like Raiola is pretty committed to what he's going to do here at Oregon and what he's going to try to build for himself.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I do know that unless you sign, I believe, you can pretty much commit to a school whenever you want. The Friday deadline is only for guys entering the portal, not for when they have to commit by, I believe. So maybe Raiola can to take some time after that. I know you got to obviously get on campus as soon as possible, start, getting used to wherever new school you're going to. But again, I have no intel on that. It's just me speculating right now because I'm looking at Miami, I'm looking at Tennessee. I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do next year, right? Miami, they got Emory Williams, has been in the system for a few years, but I don't know if they really want him to be the guy for them next year. Obviously, Tennessee bringing in a 5-star quarterback, but who knows if they want to start a true freshman at quarterback next year. I'm just kind of looking at those two schools right now and saying, oh boy, I wonder if they're going to reach out to Dylan Raiola's camp and try to see if, like I said, how committed he is to being a backup at Oregon next year. And Dalton, I mean, you look at this quarterback class going into college football next year, man, it's freaking insane. You got Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, Gunnar Stockton, Brendan Sorsby, Jaden Mayava, Byron Brown, CJ Carr, Drew Messmaker, Sam Levitt, maybe Trinidad Chambliss if his waiver if his appeal gets accepted. Joey Aguilar still maybe could go back to Tennessee for another year or two. We got young guys like Jaron Keave, Sanko Peltelli, Bear Bachmeyer, obviously Malik Washington and Bryce Underwood too. I'm blown away by this quarterback class right now. And when we do our top 10 quarterbacks going into next year episode, it's going to be pretty special.
No, absolutely. That top 10 is going to be hard for you to narrow down. There's a few guys you mentioned there that have to be locked in, but certainly certain guys who are draft eligible for 2027, Sayin, Manning, Sellers, people, there's still going to be scouts looking at John Mateer, Dante Moore, Sam Levitt, and all the weapons he's got at LSU. You've got a lot of guys with first round potential. And you know what? If they all hit that potential, it's going to look a lot like that 2024 quarterback class, possibly, where you had 6 of them taken with the first 12 picks. So it's part of the reason with Dante Moore's decision. I'm not really worried about, oh, could he could have been the number 2 overall pick. Well, as long as he's healthy and he has a good season, he's still going to go somewhere, I think, in the top 15, honestly. And I know there's a little bit of a difference there in the money, but he's not worried about that. And as far as competing against the other quarterbacks in the class, it is what it is, man. Look, there's never enough good quarterbacks in the NFL. Teams are always desperate to find them. I know that darn well as a New York Jets fan myself. So it's just going to be, I think for Dante, his development, I think for a guy like Sam Levin, he had a tough year at Arizona State, knowing that his development matters and he has more to accomplish in college. Arch Manning, the same way, really. There was always talk from his camp that he wanted to start for at least 2 seasons in college. I think it's becoming more and more of an emphasis. And again, it's not like these guys are playing for nothing in college. These quarterbacks are all making $5-6 million now. So not like they're doing it for free like they used to. At this point, these guys are worried about, how can I be the most ready that I can be for the NFL game? Because when you get drafted in the top 15, you're expected to start right away. There is very rarely the, Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love kind of plan put in place by these franchises. They need you to start day one. They need you to turn that franchise around.
Yeah, the 2027 NFL draft is looking like an all-timer, not just at quarterback, but you got a bunch of other fantastic players in college football going into next year. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver from Ohio State, namely. Colin Simmons is there. Leonard Moore is available at next year's draft, too. It looks like an all-time 2027 draft. And Dalton, the 2026 draft is getting weaker and weaker by the second right now. And as a New York Jets fan with the number 2 overall pick, thinking that you might get Dante Moore with that number 2 pick, I mean, after number 1 right now, you could pretty much Sharpie in Fernando Mendoza to the Las Vegas Raiders at number 1. This draft is wide open after that, starting at number 2 overall of the Jets. I have no idea. Ty Simpson's probably QB2 now in the draft, but how high will Ty Simpson actually go? Will the Jets actually take him number 2 overall? I probably doubt that, but this draft now with Dante Moore going back to school, it starts at number 2, and I frankly have no idea what the New York Jets are now planning to do with that number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, who knows what the Jets' opinion of Dante would have been anyway. There would have been a decision as to whether or not to take a quarterback this year. But no, I don't think they'll take Ty Simpson number 2. The problem with Dante going back to school is it makes the pick a lot less valuable, even in a trade down scenario. So I don't know who would trade up to number 2 with them to get somebody. At this point, my strategy now would be, if you're going to look quarterback, look, they've got another first round pick, I believe at number 15. They've got 2 more picks in the top 45. If you're going to take a quarterback, I think you do it with one of the other picks. The 2 guys that I would look at with that second pick are either Reuben Bain or Caleb Downs. I would start rebuilding foundational pieces on this defense. They have to figure that part out. Those are the 2 guys that I would look at with the second overall pick. You know me, I think Caleb Downs is the best football player in this draft. I would have no issue, even though he's a safety and everyone's got all positional value and this and that, I would have no issue taking him second overall. Take the best player available if you can't get out of that pick.
I believe if Caleb Downs goes number 2, it would be the highest the safety's ever been drafted in the NFL draft, too. So I think he's well worth it because he's really that special football player. But yeah, lots to break down now with Dante Moore going back to Oregon. We've got plenty more on this channel coming out very, very soon. On Friday, we're actually going to be doing a transfer portal roundup video, kind of looking over the best schools in the transfer portal and who really killed it in the portal. Then, of course, on I think we're actually going to do a watch along for the national title game too, Dalton, which will be really fun on this channel too. But yeah, this 2026 college football season all of a sudden got a lot more exciting with Dante Moore, one of the best quarterbacks in college football, spurning the NFL draft and going back to college football for at least one more year at Oregon. So lots of breakdown during this offseason with Oregon and with a bunch of other schools. So stay subscribed to this channel so you don't miss any of that content coming out very, very soon.
Everyone's got takes. Numbers have truth. And the truth is, most people are betting with emotion. Sportsbooks feed on it. TikTok gurus sell it. The hype machine runs on it. That's how you lose. PFF is different. You're betting with winning data. The same data trusted by all 32 NFL teams and the sharpest minds in the game. PFF betting tools take every prop, every matchup, every angle and run them through our custom models. Built on the best football data in the world, what comes back is your edge. Simple, sharp, and built to win. Want to go deeper? PFF puts a pro-level analytics department in your hands, giving you the same insights teams use to find every advantage. Build your game plan with matchup analysis. Project every snap, every matchup, and every edge before kickoff, because the smartest plays start long before Sunday. Hit rates show how a player performs against their prop and against defenses built the same way. It's the data that gives you real confidence in every pick. Next, Key Insights translates PFF data into the story behind every matchup, giving you the why that powers your bets. From coverage schemes to defensive looks, it's the context that turns raw numbers into winning decisions. When you're ready to take action, filter through every prop on the market and focus on the opportunities that matter, by game, matchup, or value. Then, shop for the best available line in your area and tap your book of choice to place the bet instantly. Everyone's got takes, but now you've got truth. Bet with data, win with PFF.